We do have Melanie. Excellent.
Hi, everyone. Sorry, my Zoom was updating, so I was a few minutes late.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello, Melanie.
Okay, you may go ahead.
All right, we're ready to go. Let's call this meeting to order then, and thank you all for joining us. And tonight we have Melanie with us, and she is here, I think, to talk about the communications plan. And so that is number 7 on our agenda. So I'm going to suggest we move that up to number 1, and let's do it. Shelley, do you want to talk about it, or do you want Melanie to start?
If I could, thank you, Chair. I just wanted a little introduction and to let the committee know that we started a communication plan a few months ago and worked with Deb and Kathy on kind of what the purpose of the communication plan was, which it kind of came out of the stakeholder meeting. A lot of people were asking in the stakeholder meeting, you know, kind of if we were going to get the message out, how do we talk about the Heritage Committee? What's your purpose? What do you do? So there was some questions that came out of the stakeholder meeting. So we thought it would be good to put a communication plan together for external, but also really for internal use as well, so that we're all on the same page. So had a meeting briefly, put together a draft, sent it to Kathy and Deb to get some committee member viewpoints on it, and then sent it to Thomas and Melanie. And oh my God, Melanie and the team, they did fantastic job with this. They took an idea that was percolating and then turned it into this amazing document. So we wanted to take you through the communications plan. And I know that, or not take you through, but because I know it was sent to you. So I think we want to do that. We also want to talk about the logo, which is part of the communication plan because it's embedded in the communication plan, but it will also have an impact on, I think, our conversation with David and the purchase of tent and tables, because the logo will be on some of those things. And lastly, I wanted Melanie and I to update you on some work, a separate kind of a boilerplate that we've been working on that may be in the brochure, but also Melanie has already updated the Heritage Committee website in a couple of places. So I wanted to bring that to the attention of the committee so that they're aware of all the amazing work that Melanie's just done. It's just awesome. So if I could, maybe Thomas, you could bring up the logo option. If Melanie, I think I'm going to start there, because I think, if we kind of talk about the logo sheet, and I know everyone was sent that. So really, I think I looked back at a couple of meetings, and I know I don't know, there was conversations, I think, of one way or the other, Deb, Kathy, David, I don't think it had been finally approved, is I guess what I'm saying. And so I thought that we should have just one more round with all the committee to make sure that we all agree on a final approval of the logo so that we can move forward. So.
All right. That sounds like a plan, and you're absolutely right. The city is very blessed with their communications team. It's a really great organization that does really good work. Turns that old sow's ear into a silk purse all the time, right?
Exactly.
All right. So let's take a run at this logo. Do you have? Somebody share a screen so that we can talk about it?
Thomas?
Yep, just sharing now. 1 second.
Okay.
Okay, so this is the Sorry, 1 second, folks. I'm getting cameras flying everywhere.
Yeah, I think you've got your reverb on.
Can everybody hear me okay, or is there a sound issue?
No, you're okay now.
Okay, so what I'm showing on the screen here is something that Mel had actually put together for us. And it basically just shows the progression of the development of the logo. So this is the one of the older Heritage Barrie logos. It's not the original, there is older versions, but this is one of the older ones. There's also one with this kind of H under concept 3 that says Heritage Barrie, and it's actually the one we have on the pull-out banner that we use. So that was the other logo that we had. So the team prepared a number of concepts for us, and I believe concept 4, right, we asked, concept 3 was preferred, but we asked for the spacing to be reduced between the letters. So this is where we're at in terms of sort of the final logo. And this is one we would want to use on any material we publish and any material we want to purchase as well. So if we're getting tablecloths or just the actual tent itself, or if we get another banner, this is the logo that we would use.
All right, any discussion on that? Make sure I'm not sure I could see everybody, but speak up if you wanted to speak. Kathy.
So I just had a question. With the original old logo, Thomas, that you were showing that had the railway station and the, I think the steamship, might have been a steamship in the picture. Recently I saw that Innisfil Historical had updated their logo. And what they did, and I don't know whether this is sort of separate and apart from just the words Heritage Barrie, but, you know, could we look at adding some items that would be representative of heritage as well as the name Heritage Barrie? So, you know, again, the railway is there, and whether it's the railway station or the steam engine, say the Spirit Catcher or the Sea Serpent, because that's sort of newer and more modern. We were also agricultural, you know, grain elevator. We also did the ice out on the lake, like Innisfil did. So they've updated their logo to sort of show that. And I'm just wondering if that's anything. Oh, and for Indigenous, maybe the medicine wheel. So I don't know how much space or what we could do with that, or whether it's just words that we're looking at.
All right. Any comment on that, Thomas?
I think there's a lot of ideas there. And I think what the goal of the comms team was to put together something that was clean and sort of just clearly easily recognizable, something that is connected to the Barrie brand while still having its own sort of flavor and not using an image. I don't know if there's accessibility issues with using images these days, especially on digital publications, because there's no way for a reader to read that kind of material. So logos tend to be clear, white backdrops, letters and things like that, and tend to get away from this kind of look what you're seeing on the screen. I don't know. I guess it's up to the committee to see if we want to keep exploring other logo options. Questions then come up with, like, how are we going to get this done? Because there is limited support for doing another round of logo development.
Right.
I don't think the committee has money set aside to do this. So it's just logistical things, I guess I would bring up. The ideas themselves, you know, that's for the committee to sort of to discuss. But
and I don't want to slow down the process. I just thought if there were digital images out there that we could grab from, you know, the Public Art Committee or wherever, that it might be something we could do, but I don't want to slow down the process. We need to move on with it. And I'm okay with, I think I'm okay with the concept 4, to be honest.
I'm sure there is, Kathy, images that you could use. It's just a matter of stitching those images together, picking the images and then cleaning them up and then turning them into a logo. Like there's quite a bit involved. I mean, it seems like it's just a one-stop shop, but I've learned through beginning educated by Mel and the comms team that things are more complicated than they are, especially when you have accessibility requirements and branding, sort of corporate branding policy and standards. Things get a little bit more complicated. But again, it's up to the committee. I'm sure we can make it happen with time and money, right? Anything.
Yes, time and money, both of which we're short of. Next is Sarah and then Shelley.
Yeah, I was just going to say that I think all those pictures might be difficult to make into one cohesive idea. Like they're all historic in some way, but they all kind of have different aspects. So I would be more interested, I think, in doing like the number 4 because it's clean and simple. And then when we do different historical materials, if we have photos or images, something like that, that we want to incorporate, we could incorporate that maybe into the design of the booklet or whatever we're doing so that it's not necessarily part of the logo, but is just something that we include as a reference to where we've been and where we're going, something like that.
All right. Yep. Thanks. A good idea. Shelley.
That was exactly what I was going to say, that if we keep the logo simple, then, as I said, I totally agree with Sarah. Then depending on the banner we're doing or a brochure or whatever it is we're doing, we can add the appropriate images that fit to tell more of the story about what we would be talking about in that instance, about what Heritage Barrie is, whether or not it's a train station or it's a banner about buildings or whatever. So I totally agree with Sarah.
Okay. I have a question for Melanie, and I see she wants to say something too. So maybe she can answer the question at the same time. On this concept 4, our current logo for the city of Barrie has these waves and it's upper and lower case. I'm just wondering whether we shouldn't be using that format for the word Barrie, just to kind of tie us in with the city overall. Anyway, Melanie, you've got the floor.
Thank you, Councillor Rietma. So that I know that was a preference of the committee. Unfortunately, our visual brand standards guidelines do not allow the corporate logo to be combined with another logo like that. So we did use the colors that we have in our corporate logo. We could certainly look at adding the kind of imagery of the waves if we wanted to look at tying that in a little bit to the corporate logo. But the other thing I was going to say is with the images, what we could do instead of having them in the logo, we could create kind of a standard look for Heritage Barrie for all their publications that could include some of those images that Kathy mentioned, and that could kind of be like the template for publications going forward, and that could maybe incorporate some of those ideas.
Okay. Sarah.
Sorry, I must have bumped something. I have nothing more.
Oh, okay. Kathy.
Yeah. Am I on mute? No, I'm unmute. I sort of like the idea of the wave image because that does tie in, and it is water, and water is for life, which is also Indigenous. So it could do, water is a big part of Barrie. So the wave is an interesting addition, I think, because that would be something that is representative historically and modern day, which is what you're using.
All right. Shelley.
So, thank you, Chair, Kathy, and through the chair, I'd like to ask Melanie, to comment on if we did this, looking at, I have the City of Barrie's logo in front of me. So just to kind of cut to the chase, would it be that we would put the two waves under the B of Barrie, or we would incorporate that? And I'm not putting you on the spot and trying to be a designer and design it right at the moment, but would it be something that we would just, you can see it, there's a two wave pattern. I'm looking at, well, you can't see it. So the City of Barrie logo, there's I think the two lines.
Yeah.
So maybe with the committee all here, so like ideas without, holding you to it, would that line be under the B of Barrie, or would it be just somehow incorporated somewhere else in the logo?
I'd have to talk to our graphic designers because they really have the eye for that and what would work best and still be accessible.
Okay.
But I think we could probably turn something around too fairly quickly. If it's just a minor edit like that, I think we'd be able to come back pretty quickly with a revised design to show the committee.
I think that would be awesome. I think that would solve, I think, a lot of us on the committee, that would be, even to the chair, Claire, that there would be a little bit of Barrie, a little bit of, there'd be a little bit more than just the two, type fonts or the two word mark, so to speak, as a logo. So that would maybe add a little bit of character to it. And then to Kathy's point, we could then add other images, in other print or other publications, or even on the website. This will evolve.
Okay.
What does everybody think of that? Or back to you, Chair.
You took the words out of my mouth. Any thoughts on that? We can send Melanie away and tell her to add some waves and then send it around to the committee. We could have a look at it and see whether it works or doesn't work. Kathy.
I just was going to maybe suggest to Melanie, if she wants, just at some point, have a look at the Innisfil Historical Association. On their Facebook page, I think, is where they show our new logo, just to see what they've done, because it's very clean and is very representative. And then maybe, we could come back with suggestions for our marketing material later. But I thought that was kind of interesting.
Okay. So Melanie will come back, whenever you're ready, and then you can circulate it around the committee through Thomas, and then we'll all have a look at it in a minute. So that's the logo part of the communications plan, and there's quite a bit other stuff too. Shelley, do you want to talk about that?
Thank you. Yes, and I think Melanie can, well, put it this way, we, Tammy and we circulated the communication plan. So it's a thing of beauty. Love it. We've got everything in there. It starts off with a little bit of background, talks about the committee, and then it talks a little bit about the goals for the communication plan, the focus for the Heritage Committee. So it talks a little bit about audience key messages. I know that I worked quite a lot with Deb on this, because Deb really, I refer to her in terms of what do we need in terms of a communication plan, in terms of the committee, that kind of thing. And so Deb, I think, and you can chime in here. I think we've settled on, and we've got a really good foundation of a communication plan. So I kind of turn it over to Melanie and Deb if you want to add anything, because other than that, to see if there's any comments from the committee, because I think it's great.
Melanie, did you want to say anything? Because I went through it and I thought, gee, looks very impressive.
Great. Thank you for all the kind words. That's really nice, Shelley. And it's been really great to work with you and with Deb on this. So thank you. I would just say open to any questions or comments that anyone has about the plan. And once we're approved, we can move forward with doing some of those tactics, which is really exciting.
All right. Any questions or comments for either Shelley or Melanie or Deb? Seeing none. Kathy, is your hand up?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, it is, of course. I just had a couple of quick questions. So when under the background where it talks, it's listing out what our main initiatives are. And it says sponsoring guided walking tours. Is that, when you're saying sponsoring guided walking tours, are you thinking the Steve Travers? That's how we're sponsoring? So does his name need to be here anywhere? No, okay. And then I wondered if in here somewhere under audience and key messages, should we be looking at maybe adding our local MP or MPPs?
Hey, in a way, the whole world is our audience, right?
Yeah, but specifically if we're, coming, down the road, if we're trying to get our message out, it would be nice for them to be able to help us with that as well.
All right. Any thoughts on that, comments?
And then just one more was, is there in here somewhere video? Doing videos?
There's not specific mention of videos, but that's always something that we could do as part of a specific communications plan, say for Heritage Week, because that kind of requires its separate plan. So that could definitely be a tactic included as a separate piece, unless the committee is looking for an overall video to explain what the committee does and the work of the committee.
Well, my thought was, and I saw this most recently and was really impressed with it, although it was radio and not video, but I think there is a video somewhere, is Living Green. Living Green did I think they did a podcast with a morning radio show, and it might have been CBC Morning, I can't remember, or some other organization. But it was really great because they were talking about trees, tree canopy, heritage trees. So that was really great to hear that. And then, but also to speak to things like, maybe did you know messaging. So as we learn more ourselves about Ontario Heritage Trust or things that we're doing within the city over time, if we make change to policy, that we could do little video clips somewhere to say, hey, hello, good morning. And did you know that, whatever the message is, but that, we could be getting our message out that way as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I suppose there's nothing in the communications plan that prevents us from doing that if we want to at some point. Yeah. All right. Any other comments on the communications work? All right. If not, thank you very much, Shelley, for spearheading this. You did a great job on that, and thank you, Melanie, and your whole team for all the work that you've done.
Yeah.
Yeah. One last comment, if I could. I just wanted to, that was not kind of literally the last thing that we did is that Deb and Melanie and I worked on kind of what we could call a boilerplate, maybe for committee publications, which is not necessarily in the communication plan, but we can certainly send it out. But it is what Melanie has taken from this boilerplate that Deb maybe will, as I said, put into the new brochure. But she has added all the wording that Deb and I have kind of approved to the Heritage Barrie Committee website page and the Municipal Heritage Register, the registration page. So if you, I'm just saying, bringing that to the attention of the committee members, that if you go on to those two pages, Melanie has already done a great job of updating those on those pages on the website to reflect some really great copy that you may see in a brochure soon coming to you. So that's it. And the last thing was Melanie had also included a planning calendar. So it's a small thing, but it's important so that it identifies where we would actually use parts of this communication plan to put a communication plan together. And the wording in the communication plan is kind of the one page, the boilerplate that we will all use moving forward. So the planning calendar is good because it reflects where Heritage Barrie will be in the news and potentially, as I said, using some of the messaging in the communication plan. So have a look at that as well. And if there's any questions, kind of direct them to Melanie.
Good one. All right. Any other comments on this one? All right. Well, thank you very much for all the work that got put in. Melanie, did you have your hand up?
Yes, sorry. I just wanted to mention one more thing. It's not on the agenda, but it is kind of part of the communications plan. There is mention in there, I think, of our new Barrie.ca website, which is coming this fall, which is very exciting. So I just wanted to encourage the committee members, if they haven't done so already, to go on our current Barrie.ca website. You'll see a banner at the top to do a survey to ask for your thoughts of what you're looking for in the new website. So I just wanted to encourage the members to do that survey because we'd love to have your feedback on what Heritage Barrie would like to see as part of our new website as we build it.
Okay, thank you. Kathy.
It was, again, just a quick actual question to Melanie, and although it's not on the agenda, I'm just wondering, we've been working on the Holly project, and I'm just wondering if maybe you could just give us a quick update as to, you're still working, gathering information, or maybe where that is, because I know you were looking or hoping to get something together early May.
Sure. Melanie, you want to update us on that?
Yes, and that was another thing I was going to update, but I didn't want to step on toes because I knew it wasn't on the agenda. So that's perfect that Kathy brought it up. So we are moving forward. We do have a very initial draft of what the piece might look like at Peggy Hill Team Community Center to honor the Holly history. So we've identified the area where the piece will go. And we started to work with our graphic designer, and we have a number of photos that various committee members have sent over. So thank you. I know Deb, Kathy, Craig have all sent over photos. And then this morning, Thomas and I had the pleasure of meeting with Mr. Doug Lougheed, who I know you'll probably know him from the Barrie Today story. So yeah, lovely gentleman. So he is also going to share some of his photos, which is wonderful, and some of his history, which we will also incorporate. So we're hoping to have a mock-up to the committee to review, I'm thinking for the June meeting, if that sounds good to everyone.
All right, that's great. All right, and Shelley.
Last but not least, as part of the communication plan, what we promised to do as a committee, which Tammy is starting and we are starting, is that we wanted to gather a contact list. So, names and really came out of the stakeholder meeting, like the people that we invited to the stakeholder meeting. And we wanted to create our Heritage Barrie committee, let's say, contact list, people that we think are important, so that if a press release, like for instance for the Heritage Awards, if there was something that the Barrie communication team were going to send out a press release about what Heritage Barrie is doing, then we would augment their already media contact list with people that we have on our list. So we're just going to gather that list, and we promise that we will update it once a year and send it to the comms team so that they have that information, because people change their roles and things on an annual basis perhaps. So anyway, that's one last takeaway, next steps that Tammy and I are working on, right Tammy? And then we will circulate it to the committee to see if there's anyone else that we will add to the list, and then we'll send it to Melanie, and then we'll be done.
All right.
Thank you, Chair.
Sounds good. All right. Okay. I think we've finished with the communications plan. Thank you very much. Thank you, Melanie, for helping us with that. And, you're welcome to stay for the rest of the committee meeting, but we won't be offended if you leave. All right, so let's go back to number one on our agenda, which is the committee budget update. And Tammy and I chatted about this earlier. Tammy?
I don't really have much of an update, just that Thomas has provided me the invoice for the framing for the Heritage Barrie Awards, which was just under $1,500, which the committee's already approved the expenditure for. So that invoice is currently getting paid, processed.
All right.
For payment.
Okay. Any other discussion on the budget? I think we pretty much nailed it down last time, but all right. Then the next thing is the purchase of the tent and tables for events. And David, I saw an email of yours today. Do you want to talk about that, David?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'm ready with a summary. So from the Flags Unlimited quote that I circulated, I really only got one comment back from Shelley. And I'd like to see what the committee thinks of these purchases. The only comments were an additional to add canopy weights, the weights for the canopy to hold it, the wind weight, so to speak, and add another table. The quote that I'll give you is for 3 items: the canopy, the frame and bag, and another cannery bag for the canopy itself. And then one table already and a cart, a hand cart, not so much the dolly style, but a flat cart that would be more easy to carry with a folding handle, and it would be a little bit better for our bins and equipment and such. So, and with prices, as I mentioned, I think we're up significantly from last year, but nevertheless, the quote is somewhat more than I had perhaps suggested before. With the addition of the weights and another table, the quote is $1,436. New canopy with the frame, bags, 2 tables, weights, and a cart from Flags Unlimited. And it's this style of, I don't know if that's going to come through. That's all, sorry.
Is it fairly similar to what we've been using in the past summer?
Yes, it is. From what I know, I did ask about getting my hands on it, but wasn't able to get up to see her. It will be very similar to what we've had, hopefully sturdier, even perhaps of a slightly better design than the one I was providing. Although at the price of the, let's see, the canopy, the price of the frame is $375. So, it's not, you can spend $1,000 just on the frame and canopy. So, but I would expect there'll be more than sufficient. And it does suggest on their website that it's available locally. They have them, and even parts and things to fix things. So I'm happy to be able to, take something back, or if something's not right, broken.
All right. Does that include putting
Yes.
a logo on the canopy?
Yes, it does. So that includes, that's why I was sort of trying to show this picture. But nevertheless, there's the canopy, all surfaces of the canopy are available for printing. And it's all included in our quote, printed on and it notes that the valance depth of 13 inches. So, and then further to our discussion, when I joined of the logo, if going forward, you'll need I support option number 4 is very good with whatever change we like, and that it needs to fit on a 13-inch valance, although it can also go on the top of the canopy as well. I think perhaps I'll be able to work that out in the printing with Flags, just how and where things can fit. But we certainly want the name, I think, around the valance, hopefully on 4 sides.
Mhm.
And I would need that logo if we go ahead, like almost right away.
Okay.
Questions?
Any questions or comments for David? Thank you very much, David, Sarah.
Yeah, I was just wondering, since we kind of have a limited budget, like that seems like a considerable cost. I was just wondering if we've looked into maybe getting a generic canopy, generic tent, and then if we want to have something that specifically has the logo on it, maybe a vinyl banner or something that we can put on top. So those times that we don't actually use a tent, like, sometimes we do in the rotunda and, things like that. So we wouldn't need to put a tent there. I'm just wondering if it would be more beneficial to maybe look at our cost savings and try and put that budget money into one of our other projects. And if we would like to still have a banner, which, something that has our logo on it, maybe getting it in like a vinyl banner would be a bit more versatile rather than having it just on that one spot on the canopy.
All right. Any comment on that? I guess the question, David, is to what extent is the printing on the canopy, is it expensive or?
That's true. So the canopy, the 10 by 10 canopy, like without the frame, is quoted here at $649. So you're quite right. That's very expensive. And I suspect quite a bit of that involves the printing and the work, because I could, although I don't know just where to buy, a canopy and frame, obviously they're around, that perhaps just the frame at $375, perhaps for $300 or $400, maybe less, you could get a canopy, frame and top all in one, similar to what I have been providing that. So that's true. That would be significant savings if you chose not to print on the canopy.
I suppose the other part of it is what's the quality like? Sarah.
Yes.
Yeah, I've just been doing a little looking around, and for, like a 10 by 10 tent, it's under $200. So there, obviously there's different qualities of generic tents.
Mhm.
But it seems like there's a large disparity between what is optionable, functionable, and this. Well, it would be really nice to have the sort of prestige of a logoed tent, because it does make it look really professional and really put together. I'm just thinking we have a limited budget, and if we could use extra funds for, the brochures or any outreach or things like that, I'm just wondering if our budget's a bit tight for doing something that's expensive.
Okay, yeah, good comment. Shelley.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, David, for all your work. I mean, I guess my first is that, if we are representing the city and the Heritage Barrie Committee, so I feel that, we could probably go to Costco and get a tent or something, and for the purposes of the shade and things like that, that the people that are volunteering. But I feel that we are representing the city, so I think we need to have something that looks a little bit more serious than a non-logoed situation, and I think that's my personal thought, and also that then it will be very recognizable, and I know what you're saying as far as you could get a vinyl sign, but all of that adds money, and by the time you then put signage and other things to identify that this is in fact Heritage Barrie, then you incur more costs to do that as well. So I just think, and also once we get this, we're going to be using it, as David suggested, 4 or 5 times or whatever this summer. It will last for many seasons. So I guess my thoughts are that we go ahead with a professional looking tent, and I believe that we have the budget in, there. So this is one thing that we could and should spend it on. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, Kathy.
I just, Flags Unlimited is a very reputable organization here in Barrie, a local organization. So my question is, do we know where the BIA got their logoed tent? Did they get it from, like, where did they get their tent from? So I'm wondering if we went to the BIA and said, where did you get yours and how much did it cost? If there would be any cost savings there. But I agree with Shelley's comment about, we need to step up our game and look a little more professional, which would be great. And, but the BIA has a nice tent and it seems like it's good quality also. So I don't know if there's any difference in the quality of what the BIA has versus what Flags Unlimited would be providing.
Okay, that's a good point. Craig.
I was just going to say, I think that big part of our mandate is education, and I agree with Shelley that quality, this is going to last. I know we have a budget this year, but this is something we can have for quite a few seasons. The other thing is, I went for a run, and they were setting up something by the downtown, and the Barrie Library was there. And you didn't go, oh, what is that? It's the Barrie Library. Oh, what are you guys doing? Oh, we're doing this. So I just think professionally, and what Dave said, it's a local company. It's a Barrie company. We should be supporting a Barrie company. Yes, we can go to Costco. And I think as part of being part of the city of Barrie that we need to support. And if it's a little more, it's going to be quality. I think we need to go for it. So that's my opinion anyways.
Okay. And I think we do have the budget for it. So Shelley and then David.
I was just going to say that where I got the contact and gave it to David was when I was at Georgian College, we were very cost conscious and we did RFPs and competitive searches all the time, and Flags Unlimited kept coming up with they were very competitively priced. So and they were local. So I just know that we did our research and we're very happy with Flags Unlimited all the time.
Okay, thanks. David?
Yes, I think if the budget should allow and committee members would permit, there is, however, about a $600 difference. But hopefully we're getting a better quality product and we're getting all the printing. But that is because I see a Costco canopy for $2.99, for instance, and as I say, we've found that perhaps even less. But so even at a $2.99. There is, say, for instance, about a $600 difference, if I might just add that point. Otherwise, I agree with their comments, but it is allowing budget depending what fits.
Okay, Thomas.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to share that it looks like our parks team is looking at getting some shelters sort of similar to what the committee is referring to. And those are not from the vendor we're talking about, from a different vendor. I just don't want to say specific details because I don't know background information or contracts or anything like that. So I'm just not going to say the vendor, but it is more, the tent is more than what David is quoting us. And this one is printed. So it's very similar. Like the situation is similar, and those seem to be a little bit more. And I was advised that if we want to jump on to that purchasing program, the cost does go down a little bit, but they seem to be a little bit more. I'm not entirely sure what is included in that. I haven't looked at it exactly, but it's a square tent and seems to be got logos everywhere here and there, and it's very similar to what David. So it is more. So I can just say that David's quote is probably a good one.
All right. Well, that's good to know. All right. Any further discussion on that?
Yeah, I do.
Sorry. Oh, Kaylee. All right.
Yeah.
Thanks
My
for
video's
speaking
not
up, Kaylee, because I can't see your hand.
Yeah, my video's not working. I don't have that option to put my hand up online. I agree with Sarah. I'm not sure about getting such an expensive tent. A lot of the other tents do last for a long while. Sarah and I have grown up where we've used one of the tents in some of the activities that we've been doing growing up, like every weekend, and they last for years and years and years. So I'm not sure that having them last is going to be a big issue. Like you're not going to just use it once or twice and then it be gone. Having we also have our stand-up banner, so it's not like we have nothing that says that we're just out there. We have like a Bristol board to sort of say who we are. So it's a bit more professional than nothing at all. And maybe like what Sarah said, the vinyl thing, because then you could also print more images on it if you wanted to. Like people wanted the map of the city printed out. You could add that banner with the logos. That gives you your sort of where all the neighborhood stuff are as well. And it just seems like a big cost, and if people are going to change the logo like the next year, it doesn't really stick with all the committees. And just because we have the money doesn't mean that we should spend it. Might be better on all the educational material, because that would be educating the public rather than just saying, oh, there's the heritage committee.
Okay, thank you, Kayla. I think your audio was, or your sound was pretty bad, but I think we got the drift of what you were saying. Thomas.
Yes, Chair.
Oh, I thought you had your hand up. Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, that's still from last time.
Oh, okay. All right. Pardon me. Sarah.
Yeah, I was just wondering, are we going to, with this purchase then, make some sort of stipulation that our logo can't change for X number of years, just to make sure that we do get the longevity of it? Because yeah, like every time the committee kind of changes over a bit, it seems like there's an update of logo. So if you get something now, you would want to make sure that it's going to last for a considerable amount of time, so that you do get your money out of the logo and you're not just getting a new canopy every 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, I think that goes without saying for sure, because you're not getting any mileage out of your logo if you change it too often. You know, you want it to start to represent Heritage Barrie, and do that for the long run. All right, any more discussion on that? All right. I get the sort of the sense from the committee, David, that you're good to go with your proposal. I think you do have to wait for the logo to be finalized, and hopefully we can do that between now and the next meeting. We can circulate and make any comments by email and get that done. All right. Any further? Oh, I see Tammy. Oh, and David. Go ahead, Tammy.
Question, are you doing an expenditure this month, or are you going to wait till next month?
Well, we'll probably.
Or you want to wait till we finish to finalize the logo next month?
Well, I don't think that changes the price of it particularly.
No.
So you should be prepared for a bill of about $1,436, if that works for you.
The committee's approved that, the 1,400.
Yeah, that was the sense I got.
Okay.
And then David, you had something else you wanted to say? You're on mute. You're on mute, David.
No, I was just going to double check again that number, and that adding the weights and adding an additional table is agreed upon as well. 2 tables make sense. And again, I believe the table I'm after is still on sale for whatever, but your number then is correct. And can I go ahead and order that pending our logo approval?
Yeah, pending our logo.
Okay.
Okay.
Would you like to say 1,500 just in case?
Yeah, there's probably
Yes,
a few
please.
dollars in there.
Just in case there's.
Things. Yep.
Okay.
All right. Next on our agenda is the walking tour guides. Thomas, did you want to talk about that?
I can. I would just perhaps defer to Deb. Deb did send me something today to take a look at. I haven't had a chance to look at it in detail. Deb, I'm not sure if you want me to share this on the screen, or did you?
If you want to share it and some people have something to look at, or I can, you can, it doesn't matter.
You go ahead, so you don't have to tell me where to click, and you can just share your
Okay.
screen. Okay, so this is a presentation of where you're at. Okay, very
Yeah.
cool.
All right. Sorry, I'm looking for the controls here. Okay, can you guys see my screen?
Not yet.
No, not yet.
No,
No,
not
not
yet.
yet.
No,
Does it look like it's loading at all?
Doesn't look like anything.
Okay. All
Well,
right.
maybe let me. I can try, Deb, if you like.
Okay.
All
right. If you've got it handy, if you don't mind. Thanks.
1 second. Okay, guys, everybody should see. Okay.
There we go.
Can everybody see the presentation?
yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Well, you can go right to the next slide. Thank you. Okay, so just kind of a recap and just update you on what's been done so far. I've done a site visit to all the properties that are in the current walking tour guide and the Grand Homes booklet. Kathy actually did a walkabout with me when I was in Allendale, and Craig was a total ninja, popping up on his bike throughout the neighborhood as well. Anyways, the intent was to check the condition of all the properties that we currently have an inventory of. Are they still relevant, and should we keep them in our new guidebook? And probably about 15% could be removed from the new historic neighborhood guide. It doesn't mean that we'll discard those properties. They're still relevant. They can go in an expanded online version of the historic neighborhood guide. So we'll still retain a record of those properties. The other reason to revisit these sites was to re-photograph the properties, as the images in our books are now from 2000 and 2009. So most of the buildings have changed a little bit. So now we have all new contemporary high resolution digital images for everything. And the images have all been sorted into their respective heritage neighborhoods. In addition, I did some other photography of architectural elements that could be used if we need them, or if we go with a historic image theme in the design, then they won't be needed at all. So I've started to curate some potential historic images. It's partly completed, along with those contemporary images. The other thing that's partly completed is the descriptions of the properties. So there's been some fact checking to do, some corrections, some research, so that we have a short architectural description and a couple of historical facts about maybe the people who lived there, or their importance in Barrie's history. So that's about half done. You can go to the next slide. Thank you. Next.
I did click next. Or you mean just keep going?
Just go to the next slide. Thanks.
There we go.
Yeah, okay. So unlike the 2017 guide, this time recommending that the properties will be laid out in a more connective sequence, if possible, just so that we have kind of a natural transition from one neighborhood to the next. So this would be the order that they'll appear in the printed material. I've got a couple of asterisks in there. First of all, Sunnydale Road area is not technically a historic neighborhood, but I think it should be included in whatever we put together because it's on the 9 Mile Portage. It's really the oldest road or street into Barrie, which became Ross Street. And it also contains a lot of important properties. It's got 3 grand homes, 1 designated property and 1 Heritage Board property in it. The other asterisk is about downtown. Currently in our existing walking.
Oh, we lost your audio.
It's doesn't really matter, but there's a lot of properties. It's probably the biggest heritage or historic network we have.
Deb, we lost your audio there when you started talking about downtown. Can you just repeat what you were saying?
Yeah, sure. I'm just saying that in the existing current 2017 booklet, we divided downtown into 2 separate tours or neighborhoods, east and west, and we can continue to organize it that way. And I do have all the properties organized that way if we want to distinguish between east and west, Bayfield Street being that dividing line, because probably, a third of our heritage properties are in those downtown areas. So, but you'll see when the prototype comes together and we can decide if we want to divide that or not.
Okay, all right.
If that makes sense. And I guess just with the addition of the new historic neighborhoods, Brock Park, West Village, Sunnydale Road, the Grand Homes, and Kempenfelt Village, we're going to have a much larger booklet. I'm not sure how much larger. It will add several pages, but until we put it all together and see how they line up, we won't know how big and what that's going to look like exactly. Yeah. Okay, next slide. So I don't want to dwell on design too much, but the last time we talked about possibly integrating some vintage photos into the new historic neighborhood guide. There's a few ways that we can use them. For example, as a cover. So we can have one photo that's, right now we have the South Shore Center, I think, on the cover of our book, but going forward, we could have one historic image, kind of like a wrap, so it becomes both the front and the back cover, like the example we have here. The back is kind of blank, so if we did decide to pursue having a sponsor to help cover the cost of printing, this would be a good space for them to put their information, so it's not, cluttered and throughout the guide itself. So there's space at the back here. I know we've talked about QR codes. I love them for proof of vaccine on my phone, but if we want to have it as a link back to our website, you could put a QR code probably on a bottom corner of this page, and it won't be taking up any valuable real estate within the interior of the booklet. The other place we can use historic images, in the current book we have the divider pages are doors from around the city, and it's really quite charming. But if we decide to go with a historic theme, then we could use a vintage image from that particular neighborhood to distinguish the transition from one neighborhood to the next. If we want to conserve space, print less pages, you could just use these as, say, the cover page for the download online version of the neighborhood guides. Right now, they're all divided into individual tours, and the front cover of each of those tours is that door photo that says Tour 1, Tour 2. Next. Another way we can use the images, if we don't want to have a full divider page with a full page vintage image, we could use just a header on the map page, and I'm assuming we still would like a map within the guidebook that describes the neighborhood in general, like the example on the left, a map, and actually the map would probably have dots on it where the properties are, and then a historic image as a banner at the top of the page. And of course, last time I showed you a sample of how we can use a historic image in the actual body of the booklet, where we take, you know, the occasional contemporary photo and show an old-timey photo, like 113 Collier Street there. So that's one way. And of course, we can use it on the inside covers, which is the far right example, where I've used like a slightly transparent version of it, and I've laid the text over top. So there's ways that we can use the different historic images if we want to apply that kind of theme to the guidebook. So I think that's probably a decision point for this group, how we want to direct the design team to approach the new book. Anyways, and I can provide historic images to the design people if that's the direction we go in. So next and last slide, keeping it short, that's where I'm at. The biggest piece now is just to complete all those descriptions for the properties. Still working through the Brock Park and West Village, put it all together in one big document so we can see that flow and arrangement of the properties from one neighborhood to the next. And I guess just looking at this checkpoint to see whether the committee wants to, I guess I'm taking your temperature here. Do you want to proceed with, you know, that heritage historic image feel? And I'll get those images together, and otherwise I'll just continue compiling all the content into one document that can go to the design team to put the actual booklet together. Questions?
All right, Deb, you've done a great deal of work, and thank you for that. Any questions or comments for Deb? Kathy?
Wow, just wow. That was a lot of work, Deb, and I know you still have, you know, quite a bit.
Yeah, it's been hundreds of hours, but it's a good time of year to photograph. I know people don't have all their planters out and everything's not all green and leafy, but it's a good way to actually see the properties.
Yes.
And there are no trees in the way. So
right. Exactly. I sort of like the heritage, like the older photos in amongst. I sort of like that idea. It'll be interesting just to see what your prototype document actually looks like. I love that the Simcoe Hotel.
Yeah, it's
I
a
like that
great
with
photo.
like the old awnings and stuff on the buildings. I wish some of the businesses would go back to doing that.
Yeah.
You know, the older buildings,
Yeah.
because it really does make a difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, and on that one, I really like the fact that on the back cover you've got a spot for sponsorship, and we probably should go and see if BDAR is interested in doing that. And also, I could see down in the bottom you have room for a QR code, so I think that both of those will work really well. Shelley.
Thanks, Chair. Deb, oh my God, fantastic. I mean, just I go, whoa, this is just, surpassing, I think, everything that we all, I think, expected, and not that there was expectations there, but this is just a phenomenal amount of work, and I really appreciate that it has been, but it's going to be brilliant and is brilliant. And so I love the fact that you're doing all the research and I know you and I talked a little bit about the detail. And so I'm really, I know that you have it in the back of your mind that, the brochure is a brochure, but we are really wanting to encapsulate and use all the detail that you have researched and put it on the website, so that there is the brochure is a sneak peek to, if you go to the website, you get more information about the people, the home, the whatever. So I'm assuming that's still the plan, that you'll continue with, we'll update the website, and I'm sure Melanie would be all over that as far as getting the team involved in helping with that. So I just, that point, and the second was just, I love the idea of the historic images, and then also going back to maybe what Kathy's going to say, it's also important to say what the homes look like today, and so I know that, and I really appreciate you going and photographing them, again, and so that they're looking a little bit more like they do right now. So those are my comments, and I just want to kudos and thank you so much for all the work that you're doing.
Well, thank you. And I know I appreciate being your partner with that whole communication piece, because, we've talked consistency a lot of times, and, whatever messaging we want it to kind of cascade to all our materials. And that's why I don't refer to it so much as a walking tour guide, but a historic neighborhood guide, because we talk about our historic neighborhoods. And if we want to sort of keep that theme and that language going, then we can do that. Plus, not all of these are really walkable. They're quite large, sprawling neighborhoods. So, just manage expectations a little bit, and use language, explore the neighborhood, and it's a neighborhood versus, you can walk this in 15 minutes. I don't know. It's just, I know we'll generally refer them as walking tour guides, but just I'd like to see us use more of that communication language that we're developing with the overall plan that's coming for the city, and the terminology that we want to make everyday language when we talk about stuff that's happening in the city. But anyways, yeah, it's been a big chore, and it's only half over. And just to your point about expanded content, I did engage my partner, Mary. She's been writing or also doing research about the people that lived in these houses. And she has, very kind of, what her stories are like. They're very engaging. They're very people-centric. So it's not content that we can easily include in the booklet because we're so constrained by space. But with an online version, we can tell those stories and about all the people who, not all the people, but some of the people that lived in these houses around the turn of the century. So, anyways, I guess that's a question I get now for the committee. Do you want to continue with a heritage theme? If so, I will put that material together for the design people so that they don't spend time, trying to come up with, new stuff. If we want them to apply a heritage feel to it.
Yeah. All right. Craig.
I was just going to say, yeah, it's fantastic. It wasn't even, I think, on our plan originally, and this is awesome. But one of the things is that I really like that there's people in the pictures. So a lot of times, you have a picture of the house and next to it, which is great. But I like that there's people in some of those pictures, because that's what attracts people. I mean, it's great a house, but if you can have some of those images like the downtown and all that, I think it just is something that draws people in, and you sort of imagine yourself in that time period. And I think that's why the heritage part is really good, because then you get, kids looking at it, imagination and all that. And I think that's the great part, because it draws you in. So thanks. That was
Thank
awesome.
you. Well, I'll make sure that the heritage images that I curate have people in them, and many of them do. For the contemporary ones, I was up at dawn making sure there was no people or cars in any of my shots, so that we'd had a nice clean view of the building without, some pickup truck out front or something. So anywho, thank you, Craig. You raised a good point, and I know that you like that approach with the utility. Oh, I don't want to jump ahead, but I think it does humanize a lot of this. So.
Yes, and of course, in 100 years, that picture that you took of the house with the pickup truck in front of it, it'll be historic as well. So, any other comments or discussion? Seeing none. Do you need anything else, Deb, from us?
No, and I don't know if this is more of a question to say, Tamaz or somebody in the design shop. How much of this would they like now, so that they can get started thinking about it, or do they just give me the whole package at once and we'll attack it? So
yeah. Thomas, do you have an answer for that, or should that be coming from the comms team?
Thank you, Chair. I have two things. I guess the first question we'll answer. We do want to get sort of stage one, I guess, to figure out the layouts and how we're going to be positioning the images. So, Deb, I just wanted to clarify, you're looking for a direction from the committee to use images in the background. I'm not sure if everybody's seeing this. I'm using my mouse, but on the right-hand side, you've got an image of, I'm not sure what street that is, where it says Historic Neighborhood Guide, what is Heritage Barrie? Is that is that what you're looking for the committee to approve, I guess, in principle?
I was just, it was just a general question. Do you want a historic image look and feel to the whole thing, or do we want to do what we did last time, which is, just contemporary architectural features? So I think just the design team, I'll give them all this and they can figure out how they want to use it. But it was just more of are we going to go in this direction with a historic look and feel, or are we going to go in the same direction we did the last time, which was contemporary pictures of architectural features?
I don't think the comms team is going to be too worried either way. I think the only thing that they'd be concerned about, if there was lots of movement around the page, lots of different things that they had to move around. But if we're going to have them pretty sequential, as you've got on your presentation, and you just have one background image and then images of the actual buildings or properties, I don't think they're going to be too concerned. But it is good for us to check in with them before we go barreling down that path. So I can set that up for us, Deb, just a quick check-in.
Okay. All I did for them last time was make a booklet, but it was just a Word doc. And I laid out all the properties in the sequence with their description beside it, which is how they look in the book now. And the design team put all the color and the doors and other design features around it. But I just laid out the properties in their sequence. with their description. And I'm
Mhm.
assuming we'll go, if we're staying with the same shape and size of booklet, then
Mhm.
I wouldn't add more than 3 properties per page. So if we go with the same format and I just, you know, here they are,
Mhm.
then they can just, you know, work all their voodoo on top of that.
Yeah, okay, so I'll set that up, Deb. I
Okay.
know that when we met with them a couple of months ago, or, yeah, almost 2 months ago now, they did have some comments, and I made notes to that effect. So I'll just circle back on my notes, just check in with them to make sure they don't have any concerns.
Okay.
The other thing I just wanted to let the committee know is that we do, because there's going to be more content in these booklets, I don't know if we're going to be able to fit everything in. So we just wanted to remind everybody that we do have these published on Discover Barrie, which is our neighborhood, our storyboards, story maps, sorry. And any content that we can't fit in these booklets, we can publish in that story map. And it is an actual map. So you'll be able to see where the property is in relation to the neighborhood and the city, and as well as get some additional content. So those QR codes that you mentioned, Deb, we can either throw them in the individual booklets themselves, right on the back, or in individual pages, or it depends how we organize them. But there's definitely going to be, I think there's going to have to be some deferral to the website. So we'll have the core content in the booklets themselves, and then the overflow will be the website.
Yeah.
So that's all I wanted to mention.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what you do. You have the booklet, and then you have the website as backup, because otherwise it's going to be a 100-page book.
Right.
So you want to put everything in. All right, Kathy. You're on mute, Kathy.
I'm mute, sorry. Okay. Just a quick question about what's the expectation around timeline? Like, is this going to be finished before election time, or what were we thinking? Because I'm wondering about the mayor's message in the book. So do we need to?
Oh, no, I took that out, Kathy. I took that out.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So what you see on that slide that had the transparent
Yes.
Wellington Hotel, that's the new inside cover.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought of that a few months ago, that, you know, even we don't know who the new mayor will be. So it did make sense to put something that's going to be outdated before it, you know, by the time it hits the streets. So what you see on that panel is what I had proposed for the inside cover.
And then do we have any sense of timing, like, you know, maybe printed and ready for distribution by the fall? Like, is that, or do we don't really know at this point?
Well, I can't speak to the production process, but I'm hoping to have all the content together in the next few weeks.
Well, then
that's great.
It'll be by fall then, for sure. Okay, any other discussion on this item? All right, thank you very much, Deb. You're doing yeoman's work here, and we really appreciate it, and it looks really great. So look forward to seeing the finished product. All right, next on our agenda is Open Air Dunlop. And David, you sent out an email. I have it here. So you want to talk about that?
Yes, thank you very much. I just updated that today. I've been working with the calendar, and I had originally suggested that 6 dates over the summer might work. So review the updated email I have today. The market was good enough to get back to me with 3 offers, and I think one of them fits best. But as I say, send your comments out. The 6 dates are in June and July, and 1 in September. And I thought I might suggest that we might not attend any events in August. Just I have had two personal feedbacks about holidays and personal things for this summer. So they're staggered for the most part. And then, in other words, they're not every week. And they include two holidays. The market's 3 dates were the 25th, the 2nd, and the 13th of August. So my current suggestion is June 11th, then June 25th at the market, then July 2nd at open air, which is the first holiday. I think holiday weekends are worthwhile if we can be there. They're very busy and there'll be a lot of people out. I wasn't going to take another market because that would be back-to-back market weekends. And I think it would be better to be on Dunlop Street for the Canada Day weekend. Although I'm not sure what's all around that. Obviously there'll be an open air Dunlop. So that's 3. Then in July, the 16th, then the 30th, and then in September, the 10th. And that avoids August, and it doesn't include the Labor Day weekend. So again, which is, I really would suggest seeing August up to Labor Day as being too quiet to be worthwhile, or at least for, for number of people out. Anyways, those are 6 events, and a market day on the 25th, which is one of them. Thank you.
All right. Any questions or comments?
Mm.
David? Kathy?
Oh,
And Craig then?
yeah.
So would we, David, are you then wanting us to send a note to sort of say when we might, of the dates that you've suggested, which dates we might be available?
Yes, I think if the plan overall is acceptable, I'll start a new email thread, and we can start attaching names to each date. And I could suggest the 6. Actually, I think there's 7 committee members without councillors. So there's even one less. And of course, we can have some optional dates. But yeah, we'll start a new thread and start assigning some names to these. I think it would be good to see how the summer's going to play out and have it, for the most part, in order. Have our equipment, our supplies in the office at the City Hall, so that whatever team's on that weekend, they can go and collect their things at City Hall and they'll be all ready.
Okay. Craig, did you have?
I was going to say exactly what Kathy said. So the same idea is when do you want us to start signing up? And that's great. So thanks, David, for doing all that. It's awesome.
Yep, I'll set that up.
Yeah, I think any comment on any of the dates? Seems to me that makes really good sense, David. All right, Kathy, and then Shelley.
Just a quick question. I'm wondering does it make sense, or would this even be something we could be asking the BIA, is if we could put the material and our stuff in their location rather than having to go up to City Hall during the open air Dunlop in the market? I don't, because they are there and open on Saturday mornings getting ready for open air Dunlop for sure. Would they have the space to house our stuff, or is that even something we should be considering?
Yes, we could approach them on that and say, as of for the let's say for the 4 dates through July 2nd to September, it could potentially remain there as long as it was secure and safe.
And as long as they had space to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Shelley?
Thank you, David, for all your work and suggestions. I obviously was just going to state the obvious that, the tent and or tables and or all of the above won't be ready for even June 11th or probably June 25th. Even if you put the order in, and once we get the approval of the logo. So I'm assuming that we can continue to use your tables and or your tent and and those kind of things for, let's say, June and then into some of August or July, I mean?
Yes, I hadn't considered that. I'm hoping to have things ready for June 11th. My quote here says production of 10 business days after approved artwork. So I'm practically ready to go in that case, so let me see. But yes, in that case, there's no problem with, well, we'll have our tables. There's no problem with my tent and canopy. Yes.
The BIA also were providing tents and tables. We wouldn't have to set it up. They'd have it there already for us if that was something we wanted to do. Other people were using their tents and tables and they were already set up.
Good to know.
Okay.
Useful information. Yeah. All right. Any other comments, Craig?
Yeah, the only question I had is there a Celebrate Barrie? Is there any other, like, there's Kempenfest this year, right? Is there any other things that we were thinking of, because David's got the schedule, I just was wondering, or are we just gonna do these and that's fine?
I did look for Celebrate Barrie. The city's calendar is at best confusing right now, and there's things that should have been there that aren't there. There was no cleanup. There's no Celebrate Barrie, but there's a waterfront music festival. So anyways, I don't see Celebrate Barrie. That would have been one that would have been a for sure. Other than that, I don't see it. Oh, I did note that Kempenfest is on that August weekend.
Shelley.
I was just going to mention, and without Melanie here, that we did talk about that sorry, what did you call it, David? What was the celebration called?
Celebrate Barrie.
Celebrate Barrie. Yeah,
yeah,
she confirmed that was not happening this year.
Okay.
And so if you do look at the communications calendar, it does list, as you said, Kempenfest, and it does not list Celebrate Barrie because it's not happening this summer.
Okay.
Yeah. And I don't know whether we really want to be at Kempenfest or not. It tends to be a bit of a zoo. All right. Any other discussion on it? All right. You're away to the races, David. Thank you for all your work on that. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Next on our agenda, the Barrie Farmers Market. I'm assuming that is more or less the same item, right? Okay. So then we'll move on. Historic utility box wraps. Shelley, you've got your hand up.
Yes, thanks, Chair. I just wanted to reiterate to the committee that, so the idea is, if, as David said, we have 7 committee members, and I think as per your email, David, you are suggesting or hoping that each one of us would volunteer for at least one or two dates, like, so I guess 2 dates, or what I just wanted to finalize that just so that there was some accountability on behalf of the committee members here, that we have to kind of raise our hand and give David a date. And is that 1 or 2 dates, one that we're the lead and then we're back up, or how do you see that happening as far as scheduling?
David, do you want to answer that?
Yes, that's right. And to be clear, we need a lead and a partner on each one. So 2 would be 12, but there's actually 14 spots. So we'll just fill them up. But I'll try and make my email set it up so that everyone puts their name in twice in one of 12 spots. If that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So if we could, if everyone would put their name down twice, that would be terrific, because it's really nice to do it with 2 people.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So we're moving on then to the historic utility box wraps. Craig, I think you've been quite involved in that. Anything further on that?
Yeah. So Deb and myself and Thomas is basically, it's the pictures have been selected, and then Thomas basically has them, so it's on its way. So yeah, and I think, did we share the pictures? I think we did, right? The train. Oh no, we didn't. Okay. So I don't have them, but Thomas might. I don't know. Yes.
All right. So
Yeah.
Thomas, this train has left the station. In other words.
Yes, Chair. Thank you. I was just going to quickly share my screen to show the committee the images that were provided to Mr. Steve Rose. We got them in before the April 29th deadline. They were sent over. So I haven't heard back regarding production, but the material was provided on time. So I trust that everything's moving forward. So this is the first image here. The one concern I've had is just there's quite a bit of blank space on the top of the image. Which is what can get tagged, but what they'll probably do is just frame the image as needed. So we might lose the Allendale Barrie at the bottom, or they'll keep that in, but they'll probably cut off a bit of the sky. But all that will mean is that the images in the actual foreground and background will come into better focus. So I think that'll be for the better. And the second image is the locomotive.
Yeah.
So this is a good one too. So what will end up happening is the image will actually go all the way around the utility boxes themselves. So it won't be copied, it'll just be stretched all the way around. Okay.
I was just going to say the first image, that is actually Burton Avenue. So the utility box is on Burton. So the first one, that's actually the street that it's on. So that's from an old postcard taken from the top of Allendale looking down, and when you get closer to it, you can see the church, you can see the Barrie, the Kempenfeld Bay in the background. I've seen this image used before, and it's actually really beautiful. So I can see.
Can I ask, sorry.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, Shelley.
So I, when Thomas, when you said you're going to take off even Allendale Barrie, if I look at this utility box and I don't know what you just told me, I would have no friggin' idea that this was actually an old picture of Burton Avenue, which I think is really important for new or old people that are looking at this utility box, for them to understand that this is actually what Burton Avenue looked like. And even if we can put a date on it, so even if there's somewhere on the utility box that says Burton Avenue, Allendale, Barrie, whatever, and 1835 or whatever, I think that's really important for people to know. As if you just put the picture on there, it doesn't really matter. Like it could be anywhere in downtown Toronto, or you just don't know. Yeah. So I think it's really important that, as much as we're trying to put people into it or whatever, and the same with the second image of the train, you have to I think you have to put some context to what the picture is that you're looking at, so that when people look at it, they don't have to go, what the hell is that? Mm-hmm. They actually go, oh, that's Burton Avenue in 1836. Holy moly, that's amazing. That's my comment.
Yeah, no, I think that's very appropriate. And Thomas, do you want to respond to that? I mean, is it possible for us to do that?
I can make the request. It's certainly an idea. I know some of the other utility boxes around Barrie, they're just images themselves. They're not labeled or anything. I'm coming from my point of view, though, I'm quite familiar with Barrie, so I know what I'm looking at. So
exactly, but this is a heritage box. This is not. I know there's other boxes in Barrie that don't have any copy, and I think when we're doing a historical image, people need to understand the value and the work that's been put into getting a historical image of an area within an area.
Yeah, I think, Thomas, if it's possible, let's see if we can do that. I've got Deb, and then Sarah, then Kath. Go ahead, Deb.
Well, I'll leave it to Tamaz to pursue the descriptions. I know we have them. I know that there is a requirement to identify the source of the image. In one case, a family that donated, in the other case, Barrie Archive. But really why I put my hand up was just a gentle reminder, is it Steve, if he could send back the permission terms of use forms to me, Simcoe and Simcoe County Archives will stop bugging me. So that's it.
Steve, if you're listening. All right, Sarah.
Yeah, I was just wondering, I think at one point we were wondering if we could put our own logo onto, or facsimile of what we've got onto it, or some sort of mention that says that we were responsible for this portion of it. Is that something that we can do, or is that maybe something we're not going to get in time to have it printed?
Thomas, any thought on that? That's a good suggestion, actually. We might as well toot our own horn since we're spending our own money.
Thank you, Chair. I believe we were going to use the Heritage Barrie logo. I don't know if there's going to be, sponsored by or anything like that on there. We do have to give credit for the images. So if we put, I just concern myself, I get concerned, we have the logo, we have the description of the image, and we have, you'll just end up having language all over the thing. So we can keep it small and concise. So in terms of the label, I think the label would probably be, Burton Avenue, Allendale, 1879, and then it'll be an image of Barrie Historical Society that provided the image themselves, and then we have to give credit for the other image. But I'll look into that as well. I don't want to say that's a no. I don't know for sure. I just don't know how much they can wiggle things around while still maintaining the integrity of the image. But
yeah, I think that's for sure. And I guess it depends on how big the font is for the credits and all of that kind of thing. Kathy.
Just a quick, can you bring the picture back up, Thomas, the one of Burton Avenue? Because I was trying to identify, and I think I see where the church is, and then just behind the church, I think is where the tower of the original fire hall was. So to the left, where the church is did Craig run away? Is he?
Oh, I'm here.
Yeah. So I see the church, and then behind that, I think is the fire tower.
Yeah, so that.
And then King Edward. Yeah. And then King Edward School.
Yeah.
That's Prince of Wales.
Edwards. And this is William, on the left is William Street. You can see where the trees are. And then this is Burton running along.
Right.
You can see the water tower where for the train station. You can actually see the train station in the back in front of it. So this is actually, William and Burton Street. Yeah. And all this was farmland. Right? Yes. So yeah.
Yeah, it's quite a picture actually when you really look at it.
Yeah. Great photo.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll have crowds standing around them.
we already have crowds hanging around. No, that's great. That's nice when it's blown up like that.
Mm.
Yeah.
All right, Sarah, you had something?
Yeah, I was just going to say on that logo, sometimes they'll let you do like a little watermark of a logo. So if we're having trouble putting it into a description, if you put it like in a little corner, just watermark, don't know how much they'd be able to do that, but that's just a suggestion if we wanted to kind of pursue that a bit more.
Sure, that's a great suggestion, actually.
I should have clarified, the logo won't appear because we're still tinkering with that. So if we can I'm not sure if we can get some language on there that says this project is funded by, or I'm not entirely sure what we can put on things. That's partly a comms team. And also April 29th was the deadline. So I don't know if we can facilitate any of these changes, but I'm going to try to make it happen for the committee.
Sure. And if it doesn't happen, we'll know that we'll have to get our act together better next year. So, all right. Kathy, is your hand up?
Oh, no, sorry. No.
Okay. Thank you. Any further comments on this one? Okay. Thank you very much. We'll move on. Plaques for designated and listed buildings. Thomas.
That's me, Chair. Thank you very much. So basically, this is just an opportunity for the committee to voice their comments about the draft policy, the plaque purchasing policy, as well as the application form. And I'd like to get the committee's okay. If there's changes, we can make those changes. And then we would get that policy sort of circulated up to the clerk and accepted corporately. And then I would like to get the committee's permission to send another round of invitation letters. And in those invitation letters would be the application form as well. So that's the point of adding this item on the agenda tonight.
All right. Anybody got any comments for Thomas on the application form or the policy? I thought it was a very straightforward and a good summary of what we're doing. So I thought that I don't have any issues with it. Kathy.
So the idea, Thomas, if I remember having read it, is that you would be doing the letters once a year?
Yes, we would essentially do the invite once a year. So I would send them out, or we're in May now, so I'd probably send them out in a couple of weeks.
Right.
And then we would leave the period open for a little while, at least till the end of the summer, and get the order done and installed before winter. So to get it all done, because this year last year's order we submitted a little late, but then they said we have to wait because there was production issues, supply chain, just like everything else. And then they wanted just for the weather to get better because some people had just snowbanks on their properties and whatnot, and it's hard to get the installation right. So if we can get them installed in October, November, that kind of thing, before the weather closes in, I think that would be ideal. And that way everything's sort of contained budget-wise for the year as well. Yeah. Because last year we were very close.
Right. And then this is, so when somebody is listing their property, at the time they say that they would like to list the property, this becomes a part of the package?
We could make it a part of the package as well. So the listing process, I mean, it does take a while, right? So there is two committees and then council approval for adding properties. So I don't want to suggest, to people that, just because you're listed, you're going to get that plaque that year. This would get sent to people who are on the plaque, on the list of designated listed homes as of the day that I send it out. So today we're going to add 2 more properties on the Municipal Heritage Register. And if I sent the list out tomorrow, those properties aren't going to be listed yet. So there is going to be a bit of a gap there. I think there always will be. And I think this is the nature of, sort of the business. We could do multiple orders. It just gets complicated, and I would much prefer to be able to do one order and sort of wrap it up at the end of the year. And then in the new year, we would just redo the thing again.
Okay.
Yeah.
Those are my comments. Thank you.
Okay, Shelley.
Hi, thanks, Chair. I just wanted to thank Thomas because I know I sent and started this kind of the plaque policy, but really so that we had something in writing, detailed for our committee, but more for future committees so that they understood the rationale between the listed and the designated properties and the plaques and what they look like, and so that there is some consistency that future committees will have a policy that they should adhere to once it's approved by everyone. So I really appreciate you taking the little bit that I put together and then making it like Melanie. You just made it into something that is really great with all your descriptions and details and photos and all that stuff. So I really appreciate your work, Thomas, and so thank you again. And I think it's a great idea, as we talked about with the application form too, to send it so that they can, at the appropriate time, they can at least give you all the information and hopefully the circa, and all that stuff as well. So, so again, just kudos to you and thanks again for great work here.
Thanks, Shelley. Appreciate it.
All right. Anything else on the designated listed buildings plaques? No. Okay. Then we'll move on. Designating historic buildings in Barrie. Thomas, I think that's probably yours as well.
Thank you, Chair. I believe I circulated a list, an Excel list to the committee, and the committee's homework was to take a look at that list.
No.
And no, I didn't.
No.
I believe I thought I did. My apologies.
Try again.
Well, we're quite sure you thought you did.
Well, this is a little embarrassing, and I apologize to the committee for this, but we do have a list. It's an Excel list of all the listed homes. I think Shelley, is probably just because I think I may have emailed it to you specifically, and not the entire committee, and we had an exchange. Anyways, I do apologize. So I will circulate that list as soon as possible. The goal was for committee members to basically pick their top 3. The chair mentioned at the last meeting that if we go this route, the issue is that we could potentially have everybody picking 3 different buildings, because I believe there's 31 listed buildings. So we definitely have the potential of everybody picking a different building because we don't have that big of a committee. So I'm not entirely sure how to address that. Does the committee want me to go through the list and potentially make recommendations, and then we filter that list, or do we just send the entire list and we just sort of pick and choose whatever we want?
Well, why don't we have a look at your list, and then I think I would be surprised. I think that the committee will probably, there will be some buildings that they would pick more than others. I don't know that we're going to get 27 different answers to your question. I suspect not. But anyway, I'm quite prepared to take that risk. I have confidence in this committee to boil that down, no problem. All right, Shelley and then Sarah.
Thank you, Chair. And thanks, Thomas. So just to confirm, you said there's 31 listed buildings. How many designated buildings do we have?
Put me on the spot.
Yeah.
Chair.
So, and I know, so you were going to prepare 2 lists, right? One is listed buildings and one is designated, because the Excel doesn't have it listed, you know, like just a column to say either listed or designated, because you have, okay. So I'm sorry, you know, but do you have to list? Do you have to be a listed building before you're designated?
No.
Always. No? Oh.
You can be designated without being listed.
Mhm.
Oh,
Yep.
okay. All right, good to know. So are you preparing 2 separate lists? Because Thomas and I have started this conversation because I went on to the municipal registry and I found it so difficult to really assess how many freaking buildings we have in Barrie that are listed and how many are designated, so that we can, you know, move this charge ahead and get more listed and more designated. So this is where it started, was, I guess, my frustration of not being able to easily, and if I couldn't find it, even wanting to find it, I was, you know, thinking, God help the normal citizen in Barrie that even just out of curiosity wants to look at, you know, the building. So this is where all of this kind of started. So Thomas has been humoring me by, you know, doing this list that, you know, you and I have gone back to, which has 31 listed, but I still want to know the designated so that we can, you know, have a look at that as well.
All right, I think if I'm not mistaken, and I may be, I think there are 18 designated buildings.
I think it's 16.
Or is it 16?
16, yeah, I think it's 16.
Yeah. Okay, Sarah and then Craig.
Yes, thank you. I was just going to ask if it's possible, at a little point in this Excel sheet, that if there was something specific that came in with the application where it's like somebody special lived in the house, or, you know, something extra special happened to get it listed, if we could get that information, because maybe if it's something of higher importance, like it has more of the tick boxes of value, that would be ones that would be more easy to designate because they do tick a bit more of the boxes, and then we could therefore maybe start there, or at least get an idea of what we're dealing with, if that's not too much trouble for you.
There's one, I think, Thomas, we have one of these really long lists of all the buildings that we would like to see listed, or all the buildings that people thought were important. And I wonder if we shouldn't have that list also, so that, because I can tell you that I have in my mind 2 buildings that should be designated. They're not listed. So we may want to look at the long list just as well as the listed list. Thomas, yeah.
Thank you, Chair. At the risk of sounding impertinent, at our last meeting, we talked about there being this breadth of options, and that there's lots of properties, like you said, that are not listed, that we want to see designated. So we focus specifically on the listed buildings. I'm completely okay with, of course, us going a different route. This list of other buildings, was it one that the committee had circulated a little while back? Because I remember we had come up with a list of interest or buildings that we were interested in. So I'm not, there's been a couple lists floating around, so I'm not entirely sure which list we're referring to.
Yes, and I'm not sure whatever became of that list, but I know that it might have been a year or 2 ago that we did have the word out to give you, look in our areas and see what we thought. So that's what I was referring to.
I think I'm recalling the same one, because everybody sent in properties, and I think they're consolidated. So I can resend that main list to everybody. So these properties will be just properties of interest. And what I'll do, instead of sending the Excel list that I sent to Shelley, which was just a list of listed buildings, what I'll do is I'll send everybody a link to the actual Municipal Heritage Register that's online, and not the PDF version. I'll send you the map, because the map has more pictures, and the descriptions are a little bit longer. Everything that goes into the PDF ends up being a little bit shorter because content issues. And the issue that we're having with the current register is that the quality of the images have ballooned the size of the file. And when we're uploading it and downloading it, it ends up getting corrupted and things fall out of place. So when you look at it now, it's a little problematic. So that's a fix. I'm working with our IT department to figure out how we're gonna sort that out. But for this purpose, I'll go ahead and just send the actual Municipal Heritage Register. It's very easy to navigate. There's 2 tabs, 1 tab for listed, 1 tab for designated. And you just scroll up and down on the left-hand side of the screen, and it takes you through each of the properties, and it actually bounces you around the city as well. So I can share that on the screen if anybody wants to see that.
I don't know that we need to see it, but it sounds like the ideal way to do it. Okay, I have Deb, and then Kathy. Did I have to see somebody else? Anyway, Deb, go ahead.
Yeah, quick request. Thank you for the link. I guess what I'm looking for, if there's anything that's not on that page yet, can I get the most current view of listed and designated? And if you want to throw in award winners as well, because this is going to be part of the guidebook as well, the Historic Neighborhood Guide.
Yeah, certainly award winners are candidates, aren't they? All right, Kathy.
So I think that there was also, so there's the listed list and the designated list. And then there's a list that we worked on. I remember Craig and we walked around Allendale, but I think maybe other people did too, and came up with a list of addresses to be added. But even before that, there was a white binder that was floating around. And my understanding is there are hundreds of addresses and houses on that are not listed, not designated, but of cultural heritage value, or have been identified as they're of interest, but we haven't evaluated them. We haven't done anything with them at this point. And it's because that list is supposedly through the years is the city clerk's office is responsible and was responsible for maintaining that whole bit, which also included all of the houses that are in the walking guide. So in the walking, like if you look at the walking, like we look at our walking tour guide, if you go through there, you know, a vast majority of the ones that are in here are not listed or not designated. They're just, you know, cultural heritage value. They're interesting. They're architectural, but there are some that are listed and some that are designated, but they're not all.
Really?
So we have to actually, where is that original big list? Because they've been keeping records of this since 1977. Where is the information? I'd be happy to go through it if somebody can find it.
Thomas, you got your hand up, and I.
Like, is there a box in the basement somewhere?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, so that binder you're referring to, it is in our department.
Right.
It is a thick binder.
Yes.
And the reason why it's thick is because one page will have an address and it'll say Victorian home. You flip the page, it says address, Victorian home. So they're not super informative. I didn't leaf through every single page, so I don't know if every single page says that. I'm just not entirely sure how valuable it would be to the committee. But I mean, for this purpose, right? For picking out 2 or 3 or 4 homes that we would like to see designated. Like there's hundreds of properties. So I'm just worried about the expansion of the scope of these lists. Like we're just going to end up with every building in Barrie. That's at a certain age. So I would stress that we need to go back a little bit and put some limitations on this, because I'm going to end up sending lists to this committee with hundreds and hundreds of pages.
Okay, can I ask you, then I just want to ask another question. Maybe this is for the next term of council, or, you know, it is a project. Is it possible to get from the city, you know how we have the map that shows like all the streets in Allendale, all the streets in the Grove, all the streets, but almost like a fire insurance plan that actually shows where the homes are?
You mean like historic plans?
Yeah, well, I don't even know if it would have to be a historic plan, because just to actually go to each of the different areas, like to go to the Grove, to walk the Grove, and actually map out on a map. We used to do this with project work all the time, stick a red dot at the location where the house is, so that you actually know, you know, we've walked the street, we've seen, okay, there's 3-story walk-up apartments. They don't count. They're not any part of it, but there's actually a map that shows that there's actually houses. It doesn't have to say what the house is or apartment, but just a map with the streets, like a fire insurance plan that shows that there's a building there, and then we can dot the maps with the ones that are of heritage value. And not to say that they're listed, but these are the ones that down the road, if something comes up, we need to look at these.
All right, you're right, Kathy. I think that might be the next committee's chore if they choose to do it, because I think we've got 2 things going here. Okay. One of them is this great long grand list of all the buildings that may or may not be of interest.
Right.
And I think the focus that we were working on was, let's develop a list of 10 buildings that should be designated. So I think we need to keep the focus on that. And I think if Thomas sends us the links to the listed buildings, that will give us a start. And I'm not suggesting that we should not add some buildings to that at some point. But I think that in order for us to kind of focus our energies, I think that's a good starting point. So I think if we can get Thomas to send us a link to the listed buildings, then I think that's a really good start. The next person that wanted to say something was Councillor Harris.
took the words out of my mouth, Mr. Chair. Is like the re-adjudicate that we already figured out at last meeting. It's about trying to boil this down to a manageable number. It's a beginning, not an end. So don't worry, people. We haven't ended the pursuit of designating buildings. We just started somewhere where it's manageable. So thank you for that clarity, and happy to move on, but I don't want to be in the way of moving on. So thank you.
Okay, thanks, Jim. Shelley.
I was just going to add that, I think, I don't know, some accountability and responsibility as committee members. One of the things that is our main initiative is to, encourage this, designation and listing of heritage buildings in Barrie. So it's baffled me since I've joined the committee as far as trying to understand, the listed and designated and particularly even the properties of interest. So, I mean, I look at it seeing there's a cluster of properties of interest that then maybe get designated, then maybe get listed, and then maybe get designated, or, as I heard tonight, they don't even have to be listed to be designated, but, they go to the next level. So I'm going to suggest that, the next committee or our committee, or one of the goals for next year, is that we maybe establish some criteria for properties of interest so that we can get that list, so that out of that list, we even start to look at the ones that should be listed and or designated and in order to move forward. So I'm just suggesting that, while I do agree that for what we have in front of us, we want to come up with some buildings that we want to try and get designated. And, Thomas and I have spoken about this, that it makes sense that if a building's already listed, the probability of them getting designated is high. So it's like the 80-20 principle. Let's go for that, and see if we can reap some rewards there. But I don't want to lose track of, as a committee, we should have a clear and concise list of properties of interest with a criteria list, and then designated and listed properties, so that at least we know where they are in Barrie and where the ones are that are interested, that we want to try and persevere to get listed or designated.
I think that's a logical approach. Thomas.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to say, Shelley, you make a great point. The process that you've described, we've done that. It was just when you weren't at the committee. So if you recall the conversation we just had, the committee members submitted a list of properties. They walked down streets in Allendale and downtown and whatnot, and provided me a list of buildings that they think should be added to the register. We sent invitation letters to those buildings. And through that initiative, we got several additions. Last year was the most amount of buildings we added to the register in several years. So your point is exactly it. We have that list. We can invite people to list their properties. One person who was invited to list their properties is now designating the property, is 125, 127 Dunlop Street. Yeah, that's it. So it's a great point, and we can certainly do that next year. Thank you.
Yep.
Look at the time.
All right, Sarah.
Yeah, I was just going to add in that it's great when we have all these lists, but we want the property owner to be on board with listing and designating. So even though we think that it would be great to be put onto the list or the designated, we have to get the public on board with that. So we can't just necessarily take our whole list, put them on and crack on, as much as we would like to push things forward. We want to ease people into it and not force them into something that they really don't want to do.
Fair enough. Shelley.
To your point, Sarah, I was going to suggest that I think it's something that maybe I'm not necessarily the comms plan, but something that maybe we should come up with is some compelling messaging, because of why should, a homeowner be listed or designated, like the pros and cons. Because remember Kathy and Deb, when we visited Blake Street, And the people that owned Jador, that bought whatever it was on Blake Street, said, well, what's the point? I mean, like, what am I going to get? I'm going to get more restrictions. They're going to tell me what to do. So I'm just saying, as a small example, I think that talk about educating the public, we need to maybe get some messaging together that really is compelling and giving them good reasons for why they should list or why they should designate, so that we encourage them to do that, as opposed to people that come up with all the negative aspects of, oh, they're going to tell me I got to keep the house white and I got to do this and I got to do that. It may be, but we've got to come up with, as a committee, if we want more houses listed and designated, we have to sell the public.
For sure. Sarah.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think on our info sheet for listing, it had a little bit of information as to the process and what goes on. And then there was a bit more information about, I want to say it's the SIP program or whatever that acronym is is. So we did have a bit of information about it. And I think that was one thing that we wanted to add to our information booklets, is a little bit of information as to how beneficial designating it, because everybody that comes up to us really is afraid that they won't be able to do anything with their building, but we do have information to offset that fear. So if we had those little sheets before, but maybe that's something that we could add a page into our booklets so that it's right there in front of, so everybody who takes a booklet has that information as well.
Okay. Any further discussion on this one? Okay. Thank you for that. Thomas, status of Municipal Heritage Register.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I do have 2 additions. It's actually a unique situation in that it's actually a semi-detached home on Innisfil Street. And I'm going to share my screen in 1 second here. And just for point of brevity, I won't come up with the, I won't show the Word documents with all the tick boxes. But this is, it's not a named property. It doesn't have a name like Three Oaks or anything like that. However, it is, I think, unique because you don't see a whole lot of construction like this in Barrie. Most of it that is in Barrie is on Worsley Street and Peel. And there's a few in Allendale as well, but it's a pretty unique building. And I do think it is in the checklist of why we should list it. I think it's important in terms of maintaining the integrity of the character of the area. And it potentially could be a landmark. I'm not sure if David, did you want to speak to this at all anymore, or I'm happy to share the floor with you, or if you don't want to, I don't want to put you on the spot.
Yes, I don't mind. I don't really have too many comments. The homes have this is 2 and 4 Innisfil Street, with my home on the right and my neighbor, a new neighbor, on the left. The homes, I don't have many details on the interior. Mine is still more historical. The home on the left is not inside. So most of their I think their value is from the exterior. They're both very, what I call workmanlike homes. The detail and the trim that still exist in my home is really very plain. And other than that, their history, I think, as Thomas said, the history to the neighborhood is great. There's some other homes just along Perry and Eccles that are of the same time period. The streets sort of been reconfigured in times. Across the street was the fairgrounds, the Dunlop Street Arena, and part of so they've had a history of being near those activities. They both, I believe, have a history of rooming houses, especially for hockey players, boarding houses, where Mrs. Somebody would have run the boarding house. Other than that, and some historical, a few documents from my own attic indicate a link as well to the railway. in the 30s, and employees of the railway with some old passes and etc. So some hints there, but certainly we've tried. Both homes have been at least well maintained on the exterior, with renovations, some to my home and some to the other home. They're both in I'd say the property's in very good condition right now. Thank you.
Thank you, David. I would also add, just looking at the home and sort of the style of construction, sometimes these homes ended up having employees or workers, railroad workers or industry workers on one side of the property, and then you'll have the supervisor or the owner of the company living on the other side. I lived in a house in St. Catharines that looked just like this. And in the main floor where the supervisor or the owner of the company lived, and his workers lived throughout the rest of the house. So this may be one of those situations. Fortunately, we probably won't know for sure, but if I was to guess, that would be my guess. And also, I would recommend that these two properties be added to the register, and I do need a motion from the committee to that effect.
All right, Deb.
Yeah, thanks actually for sharing this. When I was looking for properties to add to our new West Village historic neighborhood, I stood in front of this one for a long time, and I actually spent, I think, maybe an hour practically in your backyard talking to Mr. Jones around the corner, who you probably know, next to Milligan's Park. It's really a wonderful home. I fully support this, and maybe we can put you in the tour as well. And whatever you can tell me about this, David, that's great. I'll add it to our documentation. Thank you. Save me some research.
All right, there's your homework, Dave. All right, so can I have a motion to add 2 and 4 Innisfil to the heritage designation, or heritage listing register?
Yep.
All right.
Thank you, David.
All in favor?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Okay, that carries. Terrific. All right. Our last item is development applications under review. Do we have any, Thomas?
I don't have anything to present to the committee. I do want to speak to a couple of things that are going on around the downtown. 179 Collier Street, if those of you looking at the C of A agenda, Kathy, thank you for bringing this to my attention. There has been another item added to the list of minor variances. It hasn't resulted in the changing of the design of the building. It's the opposite. As they're finding things out, as they're moving things around, they finding out that they need minor variances to accommodate the design that was shown to us. So nothing has changed in that regard. The other item that has come up and I've received inquiries about is, of course, the development at the former hotel property on Lake Street. So there was a neighborhood meeting, there's a neighborhood meeting scheduled, and there may be some inquiries. So neighborhood meetings are something that the city requires for the applicant to do to get information from the public before submitting an application to the city of Barrie. So oftentimes you'll have these developers coming to these neighborhood meetings and speaking to the committee, speaking to the public, and they're supposed to take information they get from the public, revise their design, and then submit that revised design to the city. And then the city will deem that application complete. It is only after an application has been deemed complete and everything has been sort of finalized, there's no more reviews or iterations being circulated, that's when I come to the committee. So if an application is submitted on that Lake Street property and if it is deemed complete, then I would be coming to the committee and we'd be talking about the 2 designated properties adjacent and making sure there's no negative impact on those designated cultural heritage resources. So just wanted to briefly talk about the process. And other than that, I don't have anything else for the committee at this time.
Okay, that neighborhood meeting, by the way, is June the 1st, and it is at 5 o'clock. It's virtual. And yes, as Thomas says, there's designated building to the east and one to the north. All right, Kathy.
And it sits in a historic neighborhood. And if anybody on the committee can join that neighborhood meeting just to see, I quite often go on to the neighborhood meetings and just to see what's coming and have a look and maybe ask a question, make a comment. I think that's, you know, especially because there's 2 designated properties, like Councillor Rittma said, that it's important that the Heritage Committee, or at least somebody from the Heritage Committee, is on that neighborhood meeting apart from the councillor. So that would be my comment. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Anything else on that? Any other items that we need to talk about a minute? No? All right. So, Kathy.
So I was just going to say one thing. I don't know if you've seen this, but Tourism Barrie, I meant to send a link. Tourism Barrie has put together a audio walking tour of the historic areas downtown. So it's an audio tour that you can actually listen to. So I'm going to see if I can dig up the link, and I'll send along the link just so you can see what they've also done.
Great. Thank you for that. Shelley.
No, that was Kathy's point. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Well then, thank you very much for all your input and your action tonight. That we will be adjourned now. So thank you, and we'll see you in June.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye. Night.
Good night now.